Hello, welcome to the Encore. My name is Ernesto Alaniz. I'm the pastor of Flint City Church. I sit here with Pastor Wes Morris of the Rock Church of Fenton. Good morning.
Good morning. Pleasure.
It's a pleasure. It's all mine, brother.
We were just talking about, we just scratched the surface.
I'm horrified.
I know. We probably shouldn't even do it. We just scratched the surface, and I said, no, let's just start. And so this is it's always unscripted. Like, we just kind of know what we're going to talk about. We were talking, I can't even say it out loud because we're going to be so dumb. We were talking about the Mandela effect, which as an effect is a real thing. Like, it's...
We'll define the terms for those who are watching.
Okay. Mandela effect is when you think you remember something, whether it be something you learned in school, a brand name of an item in a store, a series of events and how they went. A movie quote is a very popular one. And you are certain that it happened that way, only to find out what you remember, you think you remember, never happened the way you think it did.
And this is not just individually, it happened culturally as well.
Yeah, it's a contagion of some kind, of some sort. They have other movies have quoted legendary, for example, Star Wars, right? Here we go. Here's one right here. Many people have caught on to this thing by now. It used to be like fresh, and it'd be like a party trick, but now everybody knows about it. But we think that Darth Vader said,
"Luke, I am your father."
Never happened. He never said it like that.
It was quoted in Toy Story 2. This line it's out there as this moment. Yes.
Chris Farley does it. And he's talking to the fan.
Yes.
I am your father. And that's not what he said. He said, I am your father. But he said, no, I am your father. And he never said, Luke, I am your father. It's literally on T-shirts. It didn't happen. So I want to hit you with a couple. Okay. Do you know them all? Do you know?
No,
I don't. Never done this. I've gone down this well, and it messes me up because you're like, what?
There's one I know of. I've heard, and I've only gone down the well a little bit. It's of a movie that I remember seeing advertised, and people tell me it does not exist.
It's Sinbad, right?
It's the Sinbad genie movie.
I have seen it in my mind. I don't understand it.
And I'm told it never happened.
It never happened.
But I have vivid recollections.
I know.
Of him in the genie outfit, of it being advertised on TV.
I can see it right now on a poster.
And they're told
fake.
It never, ever existed.
The whole society made it up in our mind. I don't know. We're living in the Matrix or something. Listen, what is the name of... I'm totally unprepared for this right now, but I know him well, which I'm embarrassed to say. What's the name of the bear book? The
Berenstein Bears.
What? Say it again.
The Berenstein Bears.
That's incorrect. It's the Berenstain Bears, like Stain, I believe.
No, I can see the IEN in my mind.
It's not IEN.
Berenstain Bears. Yeah, Berenstein Bears.
I know. That's what I said. My mom read it to me.
I can see it in cursive. It's in cursive.
Mm-hmm.
It's in, I think, usually white or yellow lettering.
Right. Okay, right here. The Berenstein Bears did not exist. It is spelled BERENSTAIN, Bears.
This is a picture of the cover.
Okay, the wrong one's on the left. The correct one is on the right. Is that the weirdest thing you've ever heard? Don't look at anything else.
Is that true?
Yes, I know. Isn't it crazy? Ready? You ready for this one?
I'm ready.
This one really bugs me. In the cartoon Looney Tunes, you seem like you'd be a fan.
I know. The Looney Tunes, I learned all my music from them.
Big fan.
Mozart, Beethoven, I learned all that from Looney Tunes.
How is tunes spelled?
You just made me doubt myself.
What do you think it is? What do you see in your mind?
TOONS.
Exactly. It's not. It's always been TUNES.
Like a song.
And it doesn't even make sense. It was always Looney Tunes in my mind because it's cartoons.
Listen, because Tiny Toons just came out in the 90s.
That was TOO.
Which is based on
Looney Tunes, which was never TOO. Isn't that weird?
Okay, there was Merry Melodies and there was Looney Tune. Melody and tune. Song
I know.
and song.
I know I'm telling you, it's tunes, and it doesn't even make sense because it was a cartoon and they weren't all musical. Looney Tunes, Daffy Duck, Tunes. How does that even make sense?
Okay.
All right, let me give you another one or two. What's the most famous brand of peanut butter?
Skippy?
What's the second most famous brand of peanut butter?
Jif?
Yes.
Peter Pan?
Jif.
Jif.
It was. Have you ever thought it was Jiffy?
I've heard people call it Jiffy.
I have called it Jiffy. It's never been called Jiffy. That doesn't seem to blow your mind as much. To me, that one got me. It's always been Jif, J-I-F. I thought it, and I think we're conflating Skippy and Jif.
Jiffy, yeah.
Yeah. Or Jif. All right, let me give you one more. I know, it's so weird, man. Listen to this. I think this one will get you. It got me. Maybe not.
Okay.
Maybe I overblew it.
Come on.
Curious George. You got him in your mind?
The Curious Little Monkey.
He has no tail. Can you see Curious George hanging from a thing with his tail, little curly tail? He never had a tail.
What are you talking? He's a monkey.
Look, the one on the right is correct. Curious George. How's he not have a tail? He's a monkey. He never had a tail. It's true. You look it up.
In any books.
No. Which is weird because monkeys have tails. And in my mind, I see the book. I'm flipping the book. He's on the dump truck. He's going through the city. He's got a tail. He's hanging.
The man with the yellow hat?
Yes. The man with, never happened. How's that possible? Let's go. I know, right?
There are studies on this like crazy. They will go to whole schools and like plant ideas and let them infiltrate. And people's memories will change based upon a agreed upon.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing that our brains are that powerful.
We could talk about right now how that's happened in the last several years in society, whether it be politically or, there's a thing that happens where people just start talking the same way and thinking the same way. And oh man, I don't want to get into it. It gets too controversial. But
well, here on the Encore, we're talking today about mourning with those who mourn.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm referring, of course, to Romans chapter 12, verse 15, which says as follows. It says, rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. Other translations have say mourn with those who mourn.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very, very famous, it's quoted more than one time in the Bible.
Yeah.
Rejoice with those who rejoice, laugh with those who laugh, weep with those who weep, mourn with those who mourn. We're talking today about mourning with people.
Mm-hmm.
People we love are going to go through hard times.
Yeah.
People we love are going to lose loved ones. They're going to lose their jobs. They're going to get sick. They're going to go through hard times. And for some reason, this is true for all people.
Yeah.
We're talking to believers in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what to do with people when they're in the valley of the shadow of death. And I've been on I've been on the receiving end of this unhelpful and sometimes painful attempts to comfort.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you have too.
Oh man, and then it's hard to watch it. So, like, all right. So, before we just shame people out there, it helps us to be pastors because we've learned we've grown into this. But as a pastor, we see it more than probably anybody else.
Yeah, we've been to more funerals than the majority of humanity has. Like we go to funerals all the time.
All the time. So you watch people behave. And it's hard to watch. Like I've run interference for families before where I see something, much to say. But it's, I've had people say things to me during my own grief, or I watch them just behave, and they're trying. I think they're trying, and it's just the harder they try, the worse it gets.
I think I'll talk about death at first. We'll start with death.
Yeah, all right.
One of these things is, as Americans, we're not good at death.
No.
We avoid death at all costs. We don't talk about it. It's kind of out there. And because we don't talk about death, think about death, reflect on death. When it happens, we don't know what to do with it.
Mm-mm.
And so we're awkward around it. We are unpracticed. Yeah. Our mind has not had time to think about it. And so we have to fall back on cliches. All we have are these little cliches to throw out.
They're in a better place.
And
it's just
some of these things we do. Again, people are trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
People are trying, and we're not trying to shame anyone.
No, we're trying to help people. I hope this is helpful by the end of it.
If you're a believer in Christ and someone you love is in it, how can you minister to them in a way that's not hurtful but helpful? That's not painful but providing hopefulness to someone in the midst of this great loss. So first, let's examine some of the things we've said and heard that are really, not only are they not helpful, they're not true. A classic one I hear when it comes to like a child dying.
Oh my.
When a child dies or a miscarriage, one of the classic lines, my wife and I, we have had 3 miscarriages, one early, 2 later on, 2 second trimester losses. And people, and I didn't yell at them, because I understood they're trying to love us the best they know how.
Yeah.
But they said things like, God just wanted another angel. That's something someone said.
There's a lot wrong with that statement.
That statement, I don't know where it comes from. It's almost, if you think about what they're saying essentially that what we die and our souls we become something else. We're reborn into a new state of existence.
Right.
That thing is not. There's no.
Well, first of all, people don't become angels ever.
Ever.
Sometimes I slip that into sermons just to try to help people without blowing up, without hurting them. People don't become angels, so that's not a thing. Let's stop saying, well, now he's any age. Well, they're an angel now. No, they're not. No, that's a totally separate order of creation. That's like saying, well, now they're a lion. No, they're not.
That's one thing I hear. Another thing you'll hear is you said they're in a better place now, and so some things we say. I'm gonna back up. Instead of saying there's things we can say, one thing we can do is we can say wrong things. One thing we can say true things at the wrong time.
Okay.
There are true things we can say. Listen,
some people are in a better place.
Yes. God can use this later to minister to others. That's also true. God can use the suffering later on the line, but you don't want to hear that at this moment.
No.
So there are true things you can say that.
So I have a blanket statement.
Oh shoot.
You're exposing it.
Yeah.
The blanket statement, just to help people that manage grief out there, or someone grieving, is your job is not to minimize their pain. That's what they're trying to do. They're in a better place. He wanted an angel. God will use it later. So what are you really saying? Don't feel so bad about it. Just leave it alone. It's really bad for some people. Let it be bad. You don't have to fix that.
And that's exactly where I wanted to go. For some reason, we think of mourning and grief as a bad thing. And so when we see someone we love grieving or mourning, we want to pull them out of that. We want to grab them. We minimize it. We try to say the right thing to make them not sad.
Yeah.
Grief. Okay, the Bible says, be angry and do not sin. And I love that passage. It's saying essentially the emotion is a neutral reality.
You're allowed to be mad.
And anger is a healthy emotional response to certain things.
Yes.
There was a video released in the last week of 5 cops beating a man to death.
Yeah.
I didn't watch this video.
I didn't either.
If I did watch the video, I know what happened inside of me. There would be a response of seeing that grave of injustice should create anger in the viewer.
Side note, I'm going to read your Let Justice Roll Down book. I want to read that book.
It's gonna shake you a little bit.
That's okay. I like to be shook.
Okay.
All right, go on.
So reading that book, there's moments where it's a book about John Perkins, a civil rights leader, and you read what happened to his family growing up in the South during the era of what's the laws? Those laws called that held down Jim Crow laws. Yeah. You read something that happens to him, and there is a response within you of horror and righteous anger. The emotion is an appropriate response to seeing injustice.
Yeah.
Mourning is an appropriate emotional response to losing something you love.
That's a good point.
I remember being a brand new Christian. I'm 14, 15, and I was so dramatic and
glad that's all fixed.
You're so But I remember saying things like, if someone I love dies, it's going to heaven. Why would I mourn? They're going to be with Jesus. And you spiritualize the whole thing.
Yeah.
And here's the reality. They go be with Jesus, and you're still here. Mm-hmm. That loss, like death is not natural.
No, it's not natural.
Death
I say that all the time.
is a result of sin.
Yeah, I know. That's why it feels terrible no matter what.
Yes, love is meant to be eternal.
Yes.
And when whether it's our parents, our spouse, our children, our siblings, there's a tearing
Yeah.
This person who is a part of my life is gone. And even if they are with Jesus, they're absent from me. And that deserves mourning. To say mourning's like a faith is to misunderstand the scriptures. Death is not natural. Someday death will die. It's the last enemy to be destroyed, is death. And man, do I long for the day when death dies. So, to your point, when we see someone mourning, our first move should not be, our instinct should not be to try to stop them. A lot of us do that.
Don't take it away.
You have to let them feel this.
Yes.
There was an incredible movie that came out a few years back called Inside Out. It's a Disney Pixar film.
I saw that.
We watch it every year in my house. We watch it right the day before school starts because there's a great new school scene in that movie.
Okay.
The pinnacle, the climax of that film, because there's 5 emotions in this young girl's mind, and happy rules. And she's their happy little girl. And happiness doesn't want any of the bad emotions to ever kind of come out because we want to keep her happy all the time. Got to keep you happy. Life is good. And you realize at the end of the film that you have to give expression to these other things inside of you. You have to let it out. You have to feel what's in there. Mourning is the appropriate response to losing someone. Grieving over a loss, and that could be of death, that could be of a loss of a job, that could be loss of a marriage. Grieving the death of things is normal and should happen. Not mourning is probably worse than, like, it's bad for you.
Yeah.
To stuff it all down, not to feel it, it's going to come back later.
So, the one who loves the one who is grieving, their job is to not take the grief away. We can say that to somebody else. Stop trying to do that.
Don't fix them.
You don't go and try to fix it and say something to, like, mellow out the edge of it.
You don't need the perfect words to make it all go away.
And they try. I'm going to say that. I'm going to walk up and say this to this person, and it's usually terrible.
When Christ says, mourn with those who mourn, he is being infinitely wise. I've written some stuff down here. So, before we go into how to, I'm going to say this as well. One thing of suffering we also do, I don't know why we do this, we feel compelled as people to do this, is we often will compare. We will say...
this is one of the worst things you can do.
And I've done it!
This is one of the worst things.
I will share with you a shameful story.
Great.
I've never told on a lie. I've never said it out loud before in my life.
Well, say it. Well, cameras and microphones are on then.
When I was a student at Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, one of my ministry posts I was put at was inner city outreach on the south side of the city of Chicago. It was a war zone down there, dude. We'd go to this community center, invite kids to play basketball. I was terrible at basketball, so I just got laughed at all the time. But I remember going around with my first week, and some of the young teens that have grown up there who have become leaders, they took me around in the car and told me about the area. It reminded me of Flint. It reminded me of, like, just the neighborhoods.
I imagine, yeah.
And people were telling me about how they grew up, the amount of murder that was there. South side of Chicago has been bad for a long time. Still to this day.
Yeah.
These kids are sharing with me, these young adults are sharing with me about where they live, how they grew up. And I felt the need to say things like,
I can't wait.
I'm ashamed and embarrassed.
I know that. It's okay.
I was like, oh man, I grew up in a place just like this. Oh, I know what you feel. I just felt the need to make myself their equal. Instead of just receiving the gift of vulnerability they're giving to me, I felt the need to show that my pain was equal or more than their own.
Yeah.
Someone dies. Oh man, my grandma died once. I've been there. Like, I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to show you understand. But even if you've been through, it doesn't mean that, again, why try to minimize what they're going through?
So on this, we're talking about death a lot.
Yeah.
I hear people do what you just said the most with, like, illness or sickness or surgery. So people struggle, right? They have their struggle is relative to their experience. It's a big deal to them. Your bigger deal doesn't make their big deal less. It doesn't happen. So I hear this all the time. Oh man, I just got over COVID. I was down hard, whatever it might be.
You were down hard.
COVID. I had an arm transplant. Like it's like what they as soon as they hear it, they catalog their own thing and they fire back something worse and tell too long of a story and make it about themselves. Like, oh, I just had a knee replacement. Knee replacement? I had a brain replacement. And they say, like, they try to find something bigger. I don't know what they're trying to do about maybe make your, you had a heart transplant. Like, I had a broken arm. I guess yours was worse. I guess I don't care anymore. I guess everything's fine. My broken arm doesn't bother me. But people do this all the time.
I think one of the things that's happening here is we are waiting to talk instead of truly listening to people. We're waiting to get our 2 cents in instead of sitting there and being with the person who's going through the thing. And listen, even if the thing is smaller than the thing you went through, you're right. Not all of us are taking the same hits. Listen, I'm going to be in India in a few weeks. Just because the poverty experience in Flint isn't the same as the poverty experience in India doesn't mean the poverty experience was nothing. You know what I'm saying? Just someone goes through something that's not as big as what you went through doesn't mean they invalidate their experience. That might be the biggest thing they've ever gone through. Let them have it. Let them feel the hurt of what they went through.
So what are you saying? You don't come back from India and tell the people in Flint, well, you should see India.
Right.
Like, well, you think this is bad? I just got back from India. This is nothing.
I'm not going to go into some house where the kid's in foster care. He's thinking being removed from his house again because the dad's beating him up and saying, you got it bad. These kids in India.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm not going to.
It's a terrible move.
And people do this move.
I see it a lot. Yeah.
I think, and
I'm sure I've done it a lot.
The not listening is, when Jesus says, mourn with those who mourn, weep with those who weep. He's simply saying to walk with people where they are. Like, enter into their suffering. The word compassion with pathos is suffer with. That's what the word means.
So can we say as a rule, a new rule, it's not time to tell your story? Like, is it?
No, it's not.
It's not time to tell your story. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to take the edge off it. Let them grieve. It's not time to tell your story. Don't, no matter what. Like, oh, I lost my job. You lost your job. Well, I lost 3 jobs. See, like, shh. No, they're not there to hear your story. Just.
That's a good principle. And I will say this as well. The amount of help you can be to someone is inversely related to how close you are to them.
Say it again.
The amount of help you can bring to someone who's suffering is inversely related to how close you are to them.
The closer you are, the more help you can bring.
Yes.
Okay. Like
if someone, let's say you're at the Rock Church, the big church, and someone in the church that's well known is going through cancer, and you pray, and from the pulpit you say, pray for sister so much going through cancer. And you I want to be a blessing to them. I want to help them. So you're going to go. I want to go there and give them a word of encouragement. That's fine. But you got to understand something. If you're unknown to them, they don't know who you are.
I know what you're saying. You don't have the place to say big things.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yes.
Now, I'm not like, funerals. We've all done them. And here's the fact of the matter of a funeral. Let's say a woman's widowed, her husband dies. On the day of her funeral, she is ministering to everybody. That's just what's happening.
Okay, so this is the next thing I'm glad you brought this up. This is what I was hoping we were going to talk about.
Because people are coming and they're processing their pain.
Yes.
And they're going to her.
This is
They're going to her.
The one who has the most grief in the room.
By far.
To manage their own.
Yes.
You take care of me, grieving person.
And when I do funerals, I prepare the spouse or the child. Like, listen, on this day, people are going to come to you and they think they're comforting you, but they're looking to get some kind of validation of, oh man, me and your dad, we did this thing this one time. They're processing their grief to this person because the bereaved is gone. The dead person is gone. So they're coming to the next person closest to try to feel something, to get closure or something. And I watch spouses, widows, children. They stand in that thing, and listen, it's a good thing to do. We help people, but man, after a funeral, people, most of the time the family goes home and they are spent out of their mind.
I know.
Because they've not been comforted. They've been comforting.
This is the best point, I think. This is the one that kind of makes me mad on behalf of people when I watch this happen. So this is the one I try to run interference for. You can't stop it. But this is the one where I probably shouldn't reveal all these cards because now I'm going to be at a funeral. Everyone's going to listen to this and be like, you know what he's doing? He's mad right now. But I am insulted sometimes on behalf of the grieving family. as I'm watching all these people there to support them, suck the life out of them to process their own grief. They make that person shepherd them through it, and it's not even theirs to begin with. It was theirs first. And I've watched this, I don't know if there's a funeral where I haven't seen it happen. It probably not. Like, so I want to try to help people though. So is there another rule?
You know, here's a rule. If there is a death and you're 2 or 3 levels removed from that loss, it's not about you.
It's not about you at all.
Listen, this was true in high school. You've seen high school. We had a kid die in high school once. And he wasn't the most popular kid in the school. It was a real tragic death, though, like a real sad death. But watching people are experiencing grief, I understand. But we're all young. We're teenagers. Our hormones are crazy. But I watched so many people use this tragedy as opportunity to be the center of attention. They're the ones crying. They're the ones like...
Get up and talk.
Yes. Listen.
I have something to say.
And these people were not that close to the person who died.
No, I know.
When I go to a funeral, even outside of my pastoral duties, like if I just, and it's hard because I'm such that now. It's hard. Like I'm seen that way. I'm known. But when I was younger, even, I am processing grief. If that person and me had a good acquaintance, and I really valued something they did for me when something happened down the line. The people have died who helped me in some small way when I was 14. When they die, I grieve it. But I don't go to the spouse, the widow of that person who died, and ask them to validate it for me.
Or get up and try to dominate the room at an open microphone, and make it about you, and run on and cry and come back and not be able to land the plane. Have you ever had to stop people? I've literally had to stop someone.
Put their hand in the back, thank you so much.
Hey man, thanks.
And you just move them off.
And everyone knows what happened. But like somebody has, I've had the relative, the one who is grieving of the deceased, look at me from across the room with a look of panic, like somebody be the bad guy here and stop this crazy. So I have to get up and relieve the room of this person who just made it about themselves. And I know they don't mean to do that. They didn't think I'm going to dominate this. I'm a narcissist and all this stuff. But that's what happens.
And we are very selfish creatures.
Yeah.
We make it about ourselves. We want to be the center of attention. That's a normal human desire.
Right.
I try to funeral. If I have no place there, even when I'm doing the funeral.
Yes.
When I'm doing the funeral, I'm not the center.
No.
I'm not. The stories are not about me.
No.
It's not about my interactions with the person who deceased. It's about the family and about the Christ. That's all the funeral's about in my.
Man.
I try at the end of the service. I go through and shake family's hand, and I try to give as much love as I can. In the small moment, I just take the hand and say, "I'm sorry for your loss." I look them in the eye and try to give anything I can give. I try to give that to them. It's not about me or me being validated or listen to me. I have something awesome to say. I'm just trying to give a moment of strength to someone who is barely hanging on. If someone you love is going through it, just know it's not about you.
Oh, it's a big one. That should start at the top. It's not about you.
It's not about you.
Don't make it about, yes, you're grieving, but you're not them, so don't do it.
Just be careful not to try to centralize everything in yourself. People, and this is going to blow a lot of people. I feel bad saying this. Oh, dang it. I'll see Facebook posts. People say things like, man, this year's been tough. I had like 3 cousins and an aunt pass away. And I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying. I had, a high school buddy. I hear what you're saying. You're saying people you loved are gone. But listen, the people close to those circles are having way worse years than you are.
Yeah.
Like, just be careful. You're claiming all this grief that's you're only secondarily related to and claiming it all as your own.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happened to me? I'm like, those kids don't have a dad anymore. And I'm kind of breaking I'm not trying to say your grief is less than their grief. You have real grief, but I'm saying be wary of the temptation to just make it all about you.
Yeah. If
you truly want to let's talk a lot of negatives.
Yeah.
How can we positively minister to those who are suffering? Man, again, it depends on closeness.
So it does.
A lot of people call me in hard moments, and they'll say whatever you need, and I'm like, that's very kind of to say, but we're not that close.
No, like obviously you're not going to call this person.
And I appreciate their heart.
But they don't know what to say, and I'm not mad.
I'm not mad at all.
Yeah, and that's nice, and I do believe they mean it.
If it's someone close to me, if a brother or a sister,
good friend,
a great friend, and honestly, sometimes like there's a true thing there. I avail myself to them.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I really believe part of the heart of the matter is presence, being near to them.
I was going to say
mourning with those who mourn.
Sometimes quietly.
Listen,
just sit there and be quiet. Stop filling the air. Like just sit there. Just go. It makes them feel good sometimes.
There's someone in the house
here. I've sat like again. We practice this, right? So we have a little bit of a cheat button because we've honed ourselves with repetition. But I'll sit in a living room where families are crying, and I'll sit there for a long time, and I don't say anything. I just sit there. And they'll hug me and be like, man, Pastor, thanks for being here today. Thanks for being there for us. And I didn't say anything. And sometimes I'll be like, can I pray for you before I go? And, we'll talk more about arrangements coming up, but not today. And I hadn't said anything. Someone's here with a quiet strength and it brings a peace, I think. So I think people feel like they got to say it. You don't have to say it, but maybe be there though.
I think presence, in India, there's a thing that happens among the Christians in India where if someone dies, and Indians are very much more familial than we are. We are nuclear families; they're very extended families. But when there's a death in an Indian family, a lot of the family will go move into that person's house.
Oh, wow!
And they'll be there for like 3 or 4 days after just cooking all the meals, and there's always someone around.
Yeah.
And I know some Americans are like that sounds like a nightmare to them. But I have known, especially older people, who lose like a spouse after like 20, 30, 40 years. And after all the families come back into town, the funeral has happened, that person goes home alone.
Yeah.
And those days after that funeral are really hard.
Yeah.
Like,
the worst. They're way worse. The funeral, up to and through the funeral is
there's
a hurricane.
people around.
It's a hurricane.
And there's making plans. There's all that you got to do. As believers in Christ, the ministry of presence is a powerful thing. Mourn with those who mourn.
Yeah.
And there is a certain somberness to that. Like I'm not going in there I'm not trying to alleviate the pain.
Give speeches and nope.
I'm not trying to fix nothing. I'm just there in the hurt with the person that I love. So the ministry of presence is a big deal. Now there is a time for truth, I think.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question on behalf of listeners. There does come an awkward exchange where I feel like I have to say something. Maybe you're in the line, you're shaking hands. Maybe you're at the funeral, you run into the grieving person. Well, if you don't say, whatever, thoughts and prayers, or, he's in a better place, or, this happened for a reason, and, she became an angel. If we're not saying those things, what should, if anything, people say? What do you say? Let's say you're fairly close. If you're a perfect stranger, maybe just go in and sit down and let them see you there and say nothing. It's okay to say nothing. But let's say it's beyond that.
Do you have a go-to? Trying to think.
I think less is more, honestly. If
I'm
there's
there.
a rule, less is more. Don't try to find things. There's a lot to be said in a look, in a hug, in an embrace. And I try to communicate that even as the pastor. Sometimes when I'm interacting with the family, I just hug. There'll be a moment. I'm not, if I feel that you can feel someone need that embrace,
yes,
and I'll give them that embrace. And then sometimes when I separate, I don't say anything. Or if it's appropriate, I'll be like, hey, while we have a moment, would it be okay if I prayed for you and your family right now? And if they're okay with it, and now don't do it awkward where 10 people are waiting and you're in this weird, and they feel this pressure to be weird. But a lot of times I'll be like, hey, can I just pray for you? And I'll just pray. Again, I won't make it about myself, or I won't say dumb things, but I'll just pray for strength in the days to come. And Lord, when these people that have come to support have all gone home, and and just acknowledge reality. There are those lonely hours. There is the stinging pain of grief. God, I pray that your presence would comfort them, that your word would be an anchor for them. and that you would divinely appoint people to come at the proper moment in the proper way. I just pray. I don't pray too long, and I get out, and they know where they can find me. Like if it's me, fine. If it's not, fine.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you said there. And when it comes to suffering that is not as final as death, because sometimes you're in a season, maybe it's cancer, maybe someone is battling cancer for a year. Maybe someone has a disease that is slowly over time taking away their ability to walk and then to write and then to speak. That happens. And so trying to address that thing every time you see them, it's a lot.
No, right.
So we have a family in our church right now that has had a baby born tremendously early. And there's been a lot of complications from that much of a, what's it called, babies born early? What's it called?
Premature.
Such a premature birth. It's called a lot of trouble. So I see that person, I'll often just stop and run over and I'll embrace my brother.
Yeah. And
it's just me just saying,
I'm in it with you.
Like I'm praying, we're praying for you every night. We're feeling the weight of this.
Yeah.
And I don't have time to talk. There's not.
No.
What is there to say? We all know the things.
Yeah.
We know that God is good. We know that God is near. We know He's going to redeem this somehow. But man, is it hard to walk through this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just give a hug, and it's just like that. And if they will say, Pastor, you come by this week, I'd like to talk to you. Then I'm going to make that,
Of course. So, and they will. If they want you, they'll ask for you.
I often let people kind of bring that, like pull me towards.
That's good for people to.
Like I do let, and I know not everyone's going to ask. I try to, and my wife always says, my wife says not to just give the squeaky wheel grease. So I will text people that I know are in the midst of a cancer diagnosis and just text them something like thinking about you today, praying for you today. Like little tiny.
Here I am. I'm out here if you need me.
Yeah, I'm right here. And sometimes that's just thank you for no response. But sometimes it's like, I love to talk. And so that is just being present. And if listen, to those of you listening who one of your ministries is writing letters, keep writing letters. Those are such helpful things that come in the mail.
Cards, letters.
Cards are powerful things,
time,
dude.
Big time. Little scripture verse on
it. Man, those things.
I get them as a pastor and they help me. I just got one today.
Dude.
A lady sent me one today. I'm like, oh man, praise the Lord. Needed that one. It's like that. Those are super powerful. If you're bad if you're awkward or you don't know what to do, write it down, send it to them, walk away.
So the main thing we're saying is just when it comes to walking with people in grief, there may be a time to speak truth. If someone gets stuck in grief and doesn't move on, if you're close to them, maybe you need to sit down with them and talk to them. But that's a very
careful.
That requires emotional intelligence. That requires some spirit-led wisdom.
Yeah, you need to know what you're talking about. So there are times I will ask, and this would be true of maybe a mature believer out there. I will sit with someone that's quiet, right? I go check on them. And I'll say, and the other thing I want to say is that people stay too long. They stay in hospital rooms too long. They stay in living rooms too long. Don't stay too long. Like, be present and get out, But I'll say, do you have any questions about anything? And sometimes they'll go, yeah, Pastor, and it's not just for pastors. This is just what I'm doing as a Christian. They'll be like, does the Bible say anything about like what happens and or does the Bible say anything about yeah, sure, let me read you a little bit. And I don't know, it's not time for sermons. Like hey, yeah, you know what? I'll just share this with you. I'm gonna write some stuff down and you can read it later, but I just want to share this one with you and I'm gonna go. But I'll ask, do you have any questions? One thing, we're going too long, but one thing, if people, I'm trying to give people, because let's do better, right?
We just want to do better.
We just want to do better. I will ask non-committally if there's something specific, and not those words. So, for example, a guy got real sick. He was a healthy dude, probably 70 years old. And he got real sick, and he was real weak for a long time, living at his house. He's recovered. But we didn't know if he was going to live or die. He's real weak. And I said, through text, would it be helpful if we sent some guys over to mow your lawn? He's like, honestly, man, I'm sorry I have to ask, but that would be helpful. We just sent a crew, and I told those guys, do not go to the door. Do not talk to this guy. Just go mow his lawn and go
get out of there.
And he was weeping in gratitude. So I kind of just survey the horizon. You don't try to rush it, Could we, we'd love to take grocery order for you. We'll drop it off on your front porch. Won't say a single word. Could we do that?
We had a guy in our church, man. We had a dude in our church whose knees are all blown out. And so one of his brothers in Christ saw him struggling, just walking, drove by his house, saw the gutters all full, just pulled over one day, had a ladder, cleaned out his gutters, and went home. That act of love from brother
That's
to brother, powerful.
That's it. Go shovel their sidewalk. Just go do it, and then don't say anything. Go home. And I think that matters. Like I think that's maybe. I hope that helps somebody.
So we're good. We're not trying to shame.
No.
We're not trying to crush people. It's just we don't know how to handle death. We don't know how to handle suffering. Since suffering happens, it's not. Don't try to short circuit it. Don't make it about you. I hope some of this counsel is helpful to you as you try to love people and be present with people in the midst of their great suffering. And I'll say this, if you are suffering, be gracious to people who love you poorly in this time.
Yeah, because they're doing it. They're failing
trying.
out of a good place.
Yes.
They're failing you, but they're doing it out of a good place, and they don't know what to do.
Don't bite their head off.
Nah.
Don't yell at them. If you're suffering and someone just loves you really badly, just be gracious. Just,
hey, thank you.
That's what you got to do. That's what it is, and that's tough. But it's what it is. So we got to stop there. We're already.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's fine.
So this has been the Encore. We will see you next week on Thursdays. Yeah, we'll see you next Thursday right here on the Encore.